What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for Your Overwatch, and today I want to discuss a bit of an issue that I have with where Soldier 76 stands in the meta, and why that kind of ruins some fun for other characters, and some changes that I think that would be fun for the game in order to shift his near must-pick value away, as well as prop up some other characters to make them a bit more accessible and fun to play. One major problem that I have with Soldier is that I think they buffed him originally in order to be more accessible to more players, because if you don't have good aim, then Soldier's damage can feel negligible, like you're not doing anything. So they decided to amp up his damage up to 20 damage a shot, which made him amazing at busting through just about everything in the game if he can get his sights on it, and speaking of sights, making his ultimate amazing. With the combination of those two things, Soldier's great, but don't get me wrong, I did make a video saying that Soldier would be overrated in Season 4, not as good as he was, definitely a step back from where he was in Season 3, and I stand by that argument, but I still don't like where he is now, and I didn't like where he was then either. The thing is, Soldier doesn't make openings in a play. If there's high ground you have to push into, or some key pickoff that you need, Soldier isn't really your guy. Whether it's a Rhine pin, or a dive tank, or a flanker, all of them can make plays and openings into a fight. But if the fight is coming to you, or you're already set up, or you have characters on your team that are making those openings for you, then there's almost no better character to have than Soldier, because he can just lay out so much damage once that play is open. And of course on defense, since you're waiting for things to come towards you, I think right now, Soldier is a must pick on defense. He is way too good and reliable to not have, and he offers way too much flexibility, to the point where every other pick seems like a massive risk in comparison, and that's part of the issue as well. There's other characters that definitely have a higher potential impact than Soldier, which does matter quite a bit, but because his reliability is so high, as well as his general average output, that's hard to really justify the more difficult heroes. And this is where the rubber hits the road for me. If you're playing, let's say, like Diamond and below, I honestly think you should never consider picking McCree. Never. I don't care if the enemy Tracer or Pharah, whoever, if you don't have a Soldier to deal with those problems, it's very unlikely that you're going to have the mechanical skill set to play McCree, because he's just so much harder. I would have to quantify that McCree is about 3 times as hard to play than Soldier. Now, if you have the skill set to put that into McCree, he could do wonders for you. He's a headshot machine, that burst peacekeeping, no-nonsense, flash-banging cowboy. He can destroy things if you have the right skill to put into it, but that's so difficult to do that I don't advise anybody really to try it unless you're really on one. So the good news is, I don't think Soldier is massively overpowered, I just think he's slightly overpowered. And we have to remember too, if the PTR changes to Lucio go live, and he's got that much more powerful close range healing aura, you combine that with the fact that Soldier has a healing aura of 40 healing per second, you combine that with the Lucio healing, then all of a sudden we're back in this like multi-healing death ball meta, and nobody wants that. Dive was so good, we were in such a good spot. This is something that we have to look forward to, and if Lucio changes without Soldier changing, that's going to be a bit of an annoyance for a lot of people, I think. Now, the truth of the matter is, I don't think Soldier ever needed to be changed anyway. We could simply just revert him back to where he was, and he could still have impact for a bunch of reasons. One, if you balance Soldier from the mindset of playing him perfectly, and that is to get high ground away from a fight, don't get into duels, but do consistent ranged damage that just keeps pelting. And in order to burst things, you needed to have a Helix rocket to hit. Now, you can burst things down without a Helix rocket, which makes you like a double threat. The amount of lethality that Soldier has in his kit makes it feel like a McCree with 2 flashbangs or something. It feels like he has an extra bit of oomph in his clip plus Helix rockets to be able to take targets out. So that might be one area that we look at. If we must have the damage profile being 20 damage a shot at close range, I think simply just lowering the magazine size might be a step in the right direction. But before I move on any further, let me address what I think is one of the biggest concerns whenever we talk about nerfing hit scans, because we already just nerfed Ana with her damage at range. A lot of players already think Pharah dominates their area of the game because she's so hard to deal with. Typically that's because you don't have a lot of really great Widowmakers at the lower ranks to be able to snipe Pharahs out of the sky, but also another issue that I think needs to be addressed is that Soldier, even right now, in his incredibly good state, isn't very good at dealing with Pharah at a far range. Because Pharah can just take whatever angle she wants and spam at range with no damage fall off, it's pretty likely that she can eventually hit a nice chunky direct rocket when he's not looking, and win that duel pretty easily. His range damage isn't that great because the spread that he does have isn't very good at shooting for long range. But it feels like they packed a bunch of damage into Soldier's rifle at ranges where he didn't really need it, to make it so that close range duels or pegging into tanks, he can just melt them with ease, and the spread doesn't really matter when you're pelting into a Roadhog's head. You can just get half of his HP down in like a second. So possibly a bit of a rework, maybe. Could we make Soldier's gun a bit more accurate but do less damage, or lower the damage number at closer ranges but higher at longer ranges, so that Soldier with really good long range pixel perfect accuracy can deal damage to Pharah, but isn't going to be so great at just melting Genjis and Tracers and tanks with this spray and pray, destroy everything in front of you. You're the Terminator with a machine gun. You better watch out, I'm coming. That's what Soldier feels like sometimes. In order to take him out, you need a very concerted effort to get a dive tank in his face, or to burst him down before he gets his healing pack down. Now, I personally would have preferred if instead of increasing his damage ever, that they maybe like shortened his Helix rocket cooldown. Maybe that's the Pharah player in me that's saying like, yeah, more projectiles, that's fun. But seriously, I liked the fact that that used to be the only way he got a quick burst kill, whereas now he can get a nice cheeky burst of damage into a squishy target in order to deal with it, at least most of the time. He's not the best at that type of duel, but he can do it and do everything else, which is a bit of a problem. And the last nagging problem that I have with Soldier, and we'll get into McCree in a second, is that his ultimate is too good for a DPS ultimate. A lot of players dislike that Pharah or McCree, whenever they pop Q, it seems they die instantly, but I kind of like that. I don't want ultimates that you just push one button and the entire team's dead. I want it to have to be set up. You better be getting your Zarya bubbles and your sound barriers to time accurately in order to get for these big setup team wipe plays. It shouldn't be so easy as just pressing Q, but with Soldier it kind of is. If you're on the high ground as Soldier, nano sights can rip through everything. Unless you have a Rhine shield in front of it or a defense matrix, it fears nothing. It can chew through a sound barrier with ease, just ba-da-da-da-da-da. A terrifying sound of a chain gun just ripping through everything like Rambo. It's a bit too much for me, and way too easy to pull off because it doesn't need setup. Simply just comboing with Nano Boost can just wipe an entire team, and in comparison, Nano's sword right now is incredibly good with Genji, but the skill set in order to use Nano's sword, at the very least, forces you to be a lot more vulnerable, and requires you to have the movement to be able to quickly fly through the entire team and wipe them out with swings of the blade, whereas Nano's sights is sort of just like get in the right spot and aim in that general direction and they're all dead. Not as good for gameplay, I think. Now, I offered up a few different solutions to nerfing Soldier. Rework his damage scale, be sure to look at his healing pack because it's probably a bit too strong for where it is. Maybe reduce his clip size. Heck, even make his gun a burst rifle, I don't know. But anything that forces him to play a little bit smarter and more reserved because he's already lethal and hard to pin down compared to his other DPS counterparts. Now, McCree, on the other hand, is way more exploitable, but also takes way more skill, has a bit more impact when played right, but is just way harder to play. And I don't really see a reason for that big disparity between the two of them to exist. So one way that I think we could close that gap with McCree is maybe doing something as simple as reducing the cooldown on his roll. Now, you might be a little bit worried about this, because let's say we put the roll at 0 seconds, so you could roll all the time. Well, that's a bit of a problem because it reloads his weapon, right? So he could just roll, fan the hammer, roll, fan the hammer, roll, fan the hammer, a bit too often. Okay, so that's a bridge too far. But right now I think it's about like 6 seconds or something. You could fan the hammer, roll, fan it again. But how much damage does that really do? I mean, compare that to Soldier, who can headshot in this massive spread with 25 bullets in his clip. Anything that you want to fight with fan the hammer as McCree, you would rather do with a 25 damage clip with Soldier, which can headshot. I think this is very important to note. You might think that Fan the Hammer is really cheesy, but Soldier's entire weapon is that amount of cheese, but just better. And though he doesn't have a stun grenade, he does have the Helix rocket, which is like he has this extra bit of close range damage burst cheese that he can lay into you. Whereas in comparison, McCree landing a flashbang kill feels so much more skillful and more core to how the character is supposed to play. You should have to respect him at those close quarters engagements because that's how his character was designed to play. Whereas right now, the stun grenade is really hard to utilize because characters know, and this is a pro tip for you if you don't know, if you're about to take a duel against McCree and you think he's going to flash, you can just jump in between that time, so when the flash hits you, you can be flying across his screen, making it almost impossible for him to line up the quick headshot, sort of negating the purpose, you know? At least when Roadhog hooks you, it immobilizes you completely and sets you up for this insta-kill. Now, a lot of people don't like that and say that it's really, really good, and it is. But what also is good is the amazing amounts of mobility that characters have to dodge flashbang. So a lot of players think, and I tend to agree, that if you land a flashbang, it should immobilize that target in an easy, streamlined way so you can set up for the kill afterwards. I don't think that's out of order, really, with how much more difficult that McCree is to play compared to Soldier. Because although Soldier doesn't have the CC to deal with these close-range flankers, he does so much more reliable damage just spraying aimlessly in a big spread and is guaranteed to hit, and not only hit headshots a percentage of the time. Whereas McCree, hitting that one Peacekeeper shot accurately on these little zippy targets is way harder to do. But a very compelling aspect of the game. I feel my heart swell when I watch AKM play McCree and hit headshots on tiny little targets. Some of the most amount of skill ever possible. And by the way, I think AKM is the best McCree in the entire world. Plays for Rogue. Really, really good. But he never gets to play McCree now. You see him on Soldier all the time and my heart breaks. It makes me really sad when they have these awesome characters and these pro players that exist out there that are so amazing with them. But because of the way the meta works, they're not allowed to play them. Luckily, we got to a place where like a player like Taimu at least can play Widowmaker. Let's give AKM McCree back, please. I want to make a protest right now. Whatever we need to do to get that man playing McCree again, I want to see it. So McCree, you can make his flashbang more reliable. That would help. Fan the Hammer is not as useful as it used to be by far, and Soldier's rifle is just so much better in comparison. I don't think we really have to complain about the Fan the Hammer, and since that's the case, reduce the cooldown on his roll. Why not? It would give him a little bit more shake and bake. If you made it 3 seconds, I don't even think that would be crazy. Yes, he would get to roll twice in a duel. Oh, golly. McCree is just rolling everywhere now. No, I think the ability to at least have your reload so that your primary fire is more active in the fight, because McCree is just so much slower and clunky and more punishable in the fact that he has such a small window to hit those key shots, whereas Soldier can always run away and heal himself and add another 25 bullets to his gun easily and have another spray contest to just mow down things. A little bit out of order, all of these things, guys. So, my rant is over. I'm sorry, get off my lawn, old grandpa, Soldier 76. I sound kind of upset about this, but really, I love where the game is, and I'm just a little bit concerned that when Lucio changes go live, that we're going to be stuck seeing Soldier forever, and I don't really think that's necessary. I feel like they buffed him before when the tank meta was incredible, and then he could deal with all the tanks because he can just spam damage aimlessly and could keep up with Ana's insane healing, but that got nerfed now, and Soldier's in a much more reasonable place, but I think he's still pushing out some of the more skillful characters, and I don't see why. I think Soldier should be pickable, but for his reliability, not for his lethality. He's very dexterous, and that's always going to be a good bit. You get Soldier on the high ground, top of the ship on hangar phase of Gibraltar. Still going to be good if you lower his damage a bit or rechange him or whatever. He's just really powerful in that position. But right now, he's powerful in just every single type of fight as long as the play is opened up for him. He's just this massive general purpose damage dealer that you can stick in any team comp. And I think that lessens the overall Overwatch experience. Guys, let me know what you think. Am I onto something here? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. What nerfs do you think would help mitigate this a bit so that McCree was more playable across all levels of play and Soldier is pickable, but not just for the fact that he's the everyman and can do everything, that he has a bit more of a weakness and a risk to picking him. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. It really does help us out. Subscribe for more because we upload each and every day, so you're going to want to hit the bell icon so you get notified when our videos go live. Link in the description, you can check out our Twitter, our Twitch page, and our Discord server where you can interact with our community and find teammates to pair up with. You can find the Soldier main to carry you on every stage of defense ever because he's that good. Pick him all the time. He's insane. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.